Are you ready? Okay.
Yeah.
Hello world. I call you all welcome with my beautiful new friend, J Oberg. Hello, John. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, Ilse. Great to chat with you.
That's really nice. Thank you for our collaboration and for your time. Can I ask you to present yourself to the audience? It will be faster than I do it.
Absolutely. So a little bit about me. So I live in the United States. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. I currently live in Richmond, Virginia on the East Coast, so same time zone as New York.
Mhm.
And I have been an animal advocate for essentially all of my life, but I really started taking my animal advocacy seriously in 2009. So about 11 or 12 years ago is when I started taking my advocacy really seriously. And that is when I became vegan and I started doing animal activism. And so for the last 10 or 11 years, I've been doing animal activism as a regular part of my daily life. And starting about 8 years ago, I started working full time in the animal rights movement. And so I've been a full time animal activist for 8 or 9 years. And I got my start doing person to person outreach.
Mm-hmm.
I was hired by an NGO to travel around North America handing out pamphlets at college campuses. And I handed out hundreds of thousands of these pamphlets talking about veganism and protecting animals. And I really enjoyed that. But then at some point within a few years, I had the opportunity to take over the social media for that organization. And since then, I've been focusing exclusively on social media animal advocacy. And so for 5 years, I did this for organizations, for NGOs. And for the last 2.5 years, I've been doing my own social media animal advocacy full time. And across Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, I have about 150,000 followers. And each year I'm reaching tens of millions of people with a message of compassion for animals.
Oh, that's so cute. I love animals. That's why I invited you, because I love animals. I'm still not a
Everybody
vegan.
does.
I'm not a vegan. Sometimes in one moment, but then I start again eating, being not a vegan. Anyway, to work on social media, you get so much more people to reach than just giving out pamphlets and everything. No, I can imagine that you started for. It's so interesting, yeah.
Exactly. Social media is this hugely powerful tool at our fingertips. In a very good day of handing out leaflets and pamphlets, I would hand out a few thousand. And I really quickly realized that in just one single day of doing social media advocacy, I could reach hundreds of thousands of people, even millions of people. So social media is this incredible tool where we can reach people all over the globe. Like for you, you're in a different continent, and we reach each other through social media. So social media is really this like powerful tool that's kind of democratized communication. It's really connected people on a global scale that we've never seen before.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. It's really fantastic. It's like you have them on your side,
Yeah.
What made you being an advocate, what you say, an animal advocate? That's really a special word. Can you explain a little bit more about this?
Yeah. So I've grown up with a love for animals. My mom really instilled a compassion for animals within me from when I was a little baby, and it really stuck with me. And she really taught me to speak up for the vulnerable. To when I'm seeing an injustice happening, I take a stand against that. And there are a lot of injustices happening to animals around the globe.
Absolutely.
Particularly with how animals are being treated before they're eaten. So farm animals, the animals that are raised for food, are just they live really, really terrible lives, and they live lives of confinement and misery from birth to death, and each one of us plays a role in that. And maybe we're reluctant to accept this. We want to turn a blind eye, but the fact of the matter is, many of us, if we're purchasing animal products, if we're purchasing meat, dairy, and eggs, we're paying someone else to do this. And if you don't want to do that yourself, why would you pay someone else to do that? And I asked myself that question about 10 years ago. And I thought, you know what? Maybe it's time for me to answer that question. Maybe it's time for me to live up to the idea of loving animals and getting that compassion for animals to match my behavior. So the nice thing is it didn't require adopting a new set of ethics. I didn't need to, reframe how I think about the world. I just needed to get these ethics that I already had, that animals deserve compassion, not cruelty, and apply it to my behavior. And so I simply decided to stop eating animals, and it was the best decision of my life.
Can you tell us, John, what is exactly veganism?
Sure. What veganism is eating and living in a way that doesn't hurt animals. It's really that simple. And each one of us, we have a decision 3 times a day to hurt animals or to not hurt animals. And by purchasing and eating animals, so meat, milk, eggs, we are contributing to their suffering, because these animals live lives of misery. 99.9% of these animals are living lives of misery from birth to death. And so each one of us can choose to support that or to boycott that cruelty. And by boycotting that, we're choosing to eat vegan food, which is food made from plants, because plants aren't sentient. So plants don't feel pain. But animals do. So simply, veganism is eating plant-based foods instead of animal-based foods. So if you want to make a difference for animals, you can eat plant-based foods instead. And each one of us eats dozens of animals every single year. Many of those animals are chickens and fish. And if you want to make a difference for these animals, the best thing that you can do is to leave them off your plate and to eat plant-based foods instead. And in 2021, there are tons and tons of plant-based foods out there that are amazing.
Oh, absolutely. There's loads and loads of things that we can eat without animal food, definitely. What is the difference between veganism and vegetarianism? I'm going to ask that for people maybe who doesn't know exactly what is the difference. Because veganism, like you say, it's more like a philosophy, It's like a way of living, yeah? It's a way of living, no?
So I mean, veganism can also be like tied to someone's identity and be tied to philosophy and stuff. There's certainly if you are vegan, you want to try and avoid buying fur, for example, or leather, other areas where animals are exploited. Vegetarianism is you don't eat meat, but you eat eggs or dairy or other animal products. And so veganism is kind of like vegetarianism, just to the next level. And of course, milk and milk products and eggs are in a lot of foods, and are you go to the grocery store and you see tons of it. So it can be certainly easier to go vegetarian than to go vegan. My recommendation is for people who are interested in, even if they're interested in veganism, to maybe start out going vegetarian for a little while until they get used to it. And then when they feel like they're ready to have a long sustained journey of veganism, then go vegan. So I would rather have someone go vegetarian for a year or two and then go vegan and be able to stay vegan for the rest of their life than to go from eating meat to going vegan the next day, and then in 3 months it's just too hard and they stop, and then they never go back to being vegan.
It's the mentality you have to change in your life.
Yeah, and you'll find that once you've made that change, it's substantially easier to accept these things. For example, I know many vegans who, or a lot of people, maybe a lot of the viewers right now, when they're confronted with the idea that the animals raised for meat suffer, you want to turn a blind eye. You want to put a wall up. You want to say, no, I'm sure the animals I'm eating are treated fine. Or, I don't eat that many animals. But really, these are just BS that we tell ourselves because we don't want to be confronted with the truth.
Yeah.
But what I've found is that once you actually make the change, you are then significantly more able to accept the truth. And so I know many people who went vegan for health reasons, okay? And so they had nothing to do with animals. But once they were already vegan, they were significantly more open to hearing about how farm animals are being treated and openly taking a stance against that. But I found that if you are actively involved in contributing to the suffering of these farm animals, you are more likely to just kind of bury your head in the sand. Because people don't want to believe that they're bad people, right? Nobody wants to believe that they're a bad person. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to believe that what they're doing is mostly good. And unfortunately, when it comes to eating animals, it's very, very bad. And I'm not saying that people are bad people. They're just making decisions that harm animals. And they should really take a solid look at that. And really the first, once you start making changes is when you can start accepting the reality that these animals are facing. And, we talked earlier about vegetarianism versus veganism. I'd even go back further and just maybe doing meatless Monday. So where you have one day a week where you're vegetarian, which is Monday is a good day for that. And if you do that, then you are more likely to be open to trying vegetarianism and being able to stay, maintain as a vegetarian later. So I would recommend at least starting with baby steps, whether that's, vegetarian one day a week or vegan on the weekends or whatever works for you. Figure it out. And there are so many great resources online. I really recommend challenge22.com. Really great resources on the internet that are available to anyone, anywhere in the world. And it is really amazing the amount of great resources available to make your changes possible.
Exactly. That's fantastic. That's really fantastic. Me personally, I don't really eat meat, but then I love meat. I love meat. But I can live very easily without eating meat, like a flexi vegetarian.
Yeah, flexitarians are amazing, and that they're actually really doing a lot of good for animals because they are increasing the demand for plant-based foods and they're decreasing their demand for animal-based foods, which is making a big difference. So if you actually look at the amount, the vegan meats out there, the plant-based meats like the Beyond Burger or Impossible Burger, you'll see that a lot of the demand for that isn't coming from vegans, it's coming from flexitarians.
Exactly. Yeah. So that is, there's always little steps forward.
And it's a question worth asking yourself. It's why am I participating in something that I would never do myself?
Exactly.
And the answer is usually convenience because, you go to the store, you see the chicken breast nicely wrapped up. You don't see a photo of, what the animal went through. You don't see a video. You don't know what happened to this chicken hundreds or thousands of miles away. And so it's very easy to follow the status quo. But, I know that many of your listeners are the type of people who challenge the status quo, who say, I don't want to live the way I've been living just because I've been living this way. I want to live in a way that adopts compassion, that embraces compassion for animals.
Yeah, but then they say like chickens, but chickens also, they live. Chickens, they feel also. And the fish, same. It's exactly the same. But what I think also is absolutely awful is this overproduction. All this meat and all this fish that they throw away because it wasn't sold. What about this? This is awful.
Yeah, it's certainly an issue, and it's certainly a sign of the gluttony of the times. You know, how we can have just so many animals who just die for no reason. You know,
For no
like
reason. Yeah.
there's actually a significant portion of chickens who actually die before they ever are sent to slaughter. So they'll have a barn, which is essentially just a massive shed with tens of thousands of chickens in it. And a big number of those chickens, I can't give you an exact percentage right now, but let's just say 5 or 10% of those chickens will actually die from the treatment, whether it's the treatment they're living in or the ways that they are bred. Because, for example, they grow so quickly that their legs will often snap beneath them, and then they might starve to death or die of agony, die in agony. And so the thing is, the meat industry already knows this is going to happen. It's factored in to the cost of doing business. So it isn't like these are isolated incidents that will never happen again. The meat industry says, okay, you know what? We know that X amount of these animals are going to die and die in this horribly painful way, but it's more economically beneficial to treat them all this way because it makes them grow faster, or it makes us able to put more animals into one small space, or it saves them money in some sort of way. And that is the calculation that these industries are making. They aren't thinking about the animal welfare. The animal's welfare is always the bottom of the priority list, and really it doesn't make the priority list at all. So that's the industry, that's the world that we're fighting against. And I know that everyday people like your listeners don't want to participate in this. They don't want to support this cruelty and suffering.
I just think it's fantastic because through today, I mean, people are so much more conscious because there are ways to see it now today. Before, like there's not, again, we go back to the social media. When there was no social media, they just let us see whatever they want that we see.
Science shows us that animals suffer just the same ways that cats and dogs suffer. So pigs, cows, chickens, fish, they suffer just like cats and dogs. And so if you wouldn't pay someone to hurt a cat or a dog, why pay someone to do that to a farm animal just because they're wrapped up pretty in a grocery store?
If you do a cleanse with like just on vegetables and fruits for a few weeks, I mean, you really feel terrific. It's good, but it's not good to just go on doing everything raw, of course.
I do know people who have had good experiences with the cleanses. It's not something I do, or I'm certainly not a health expert, so I can't recommend cleanses. But what I will say is just by switching from animal-based foods to plant-based foods, it's pretty amazing. And what's significantly amazing about the world that we live in today is that you can eat the same foods that you're used to eating, just in plant-based form. So burgers, sausages, essentially every meat and dairy and egg product that you can think of, there's plant-based forms now. And just the other day I was eating a burger, and a vegan burger, but it just tasted so good and so meat-like. And I said, like, this is why people love meat. Like, this tastes amazing. We just need people to understand that they can eat the burger that is made from plant-based sources rather than animal-based sources.
Absolutely. Yeah. They are lovely. They really taste like meat. Exactly the same. Yeah. What did your mother played like a role in your...
Yeah, of course. I love talking about my mom. I do it all the time.
That's good.
Just because I want to keep her memory alive. So my mom, she really instilled a compassion for animals in me from when I was a little baby. And she and I, rescued animals together. We protested against hunting of animals together. We did lots of things. So she really instilled this compassion for animals in me that led to me eventually becoming vegetarian and then vegan. And then I kind of showed her how farm animals are being treated. And that made her actually stop eating animals. So we had this really great relationship where she influenced me, then I influenced her.
Yeah.
And we were very close. And then she had unfortunately been diagnosed with stage 4 small cell lung cancer in 2013. And then, so I took a hiatus from my job and I took care of her for 2.5 years until she passed away at the end of 2015. But I took care of her full time and loved every moment of it. And, I spent the vast majority of my days in a chair next to her bed, just talking with her and eating good vegan food. And yeah, so she had a really, really big influence on me and will until the day I die.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's really terrific. Oh. But it's good that she lives that she's so part of your daily life. That's very important, and that's so...
Oh, totally.
And that is so lovely, John, you're working on a project at the moment. Can you tell the listeners what sort of project you're working on at the moment? That would be nice.
Yeah, right now I'm working on a project with a group called Advocacy Collaborative, and I am putting together a set of trainings for courses, actually, full-on courses that are going to be focused on social media advocacy for animals. And actually, it's for any cause that you believe in, this information is useful for. So I'll be coming out with 3 courses, one on Twitter, one on Instagram, and one on Facebook. As of recording, they are not yet available, but by the time this podcast goes live, hopefully the first course will be available to everyone for purchase, and it'll be focused on Twitter, how to use Twitter to change the world. And I'm very excited for that to come out. So keep your eye out for that. And if people want to participate in my work and follow me on social media, they can find me on Instagram and on Twitter. My handle is Jon Oberg, JohnOberg.
I will leave it under the video.
Thank you.
I will leave it under the video.
Yep, Facebook.com/Jon Oberg official.
All your social media. Oh, that's really lovely. That's fantastic. Do you have a special message, a general special message for the audience? Is there something you would give your heart out, your heart?
Yes, my message to every member of your audience is to just challenge yourself. And if you are not yet a vegetarian or a vegan, I want you to consider the idea that there is a way to live in which your ethics that you have, which I promise you have, you don't want animals to suffer unnecessarily. There is a way to live in which that ethics, that set of ethics, matches your behavior. And it's simply choosing to leave animals off of your plate. And in 2021, that is easier than ever. And it doesn't require a major life shift. It's really just choosing one thing off of a menu instead of another, one thing off of a shelf at a grocery store instead of another. And there are plentiful resources out there to make that happen. And it's really just up to you. So the hardest part about change isn't the change itself, it's getting the courage to make that change. So once you get the courage to make that change, just go for it and you will find that you will have a lot of success.
Fantastic.
And make a big difference for animals. So definitely give it a shot.
A big difference. And like this, all the animals doesn't have to suffer anymore.
Exactly. Yep.
John, thank you so much for your collaboration and your time to give all these really lovely information on my channel. I asked the people if they have commentaries, if whatever you want to talk about or whatever, or ask John, you can all leave them down in the video. We always say subscribe, like. If you like the video, you do a, no, how do you say? If you like the video, you do a like. And if you love the video, you do a subscribe.
I like it. I like that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because on the
and of course, leave a comment as well.
Yeah, that would be nice. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Ilse. This has been fun.
It was, yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it's good interview. I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Okay. Anyway, I send loads of light to everybody and everybody, because in Spanish we say todas y todos, because it's feminine and masculine. Everybody, everybody. Bye.
Cheers.